G'day guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video on the YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going over my round 11 AFL tips and predictions. The second round of Sir Doug Nicholls round. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. We're going to start off with looking at my tipping comp and how everyone is going. So, AFL GOAT HQ leads it at the top with 64. Then follows Taylor Rhodes with 63, O1 Chloe with 63, Bailey Boy 200 with 63, Liam Patton with 63, Sean Holland with 63, and then so on. In my own tipping comp, I'm sitting 32nd with 56. Not the best because there's 36 people. I'm in the bottom. Not 4, but I'm in the bottom 5, so it's not the best. For round 10, the person that got the most is Owen Chloe and Mitch Boy 1994 with a score of 8. And then Coast Club got 7. Then a lot of other people got 7. Even Blaze got 7. And yes, so now that we've done reviewing that, let's review my tips for last round actually. So that's round 11, sorry. I've already put my tips in, I'll just go over the game. So I tipped Geelong by 20, they lost by 64. That was a horrible game for me as Geelong got smashed. I really wanted them to win so I could get a tip right. An extra tip always counts. But no, I actually didn't. The Suns dominated in their biggest win ever, highest score ever. And definitely the highest scoring game this season, and I reckon it will stay that way. Then Sydney versus Carlton. What was I thinking? Why did I tip Carlton and Sydney? Look, Carlton are a good side, but how did they get thumped by that much? Not even Melbourne. Oh yeah, they actually, never mind. You can't compare that way. But if Carlton want to make top 4, They really need to start competing in these games like this. It is Sydney and all, but you really still need to compete. Anyway, so Collingwood Adelaide, Rankin's done his hamstring. Rankin has done his hamstring. And I was listening to that on the radio. I listened to the goal, he kicked that final goal. Then I had hope because I didn't see what was going on. I thought Rankin was running in the forward line and he was strolling into goals, but he wasn't. And I thought he was running and he just tripped over and tore his hamstring, but sorry about that. But that wasn't the case, no. Yeah, and Collingwood won by 4. Good game. Then, why did I tip the Giants? The Dogs were way too good versus GWS. They played really good, the Dogs. I will give it to the Dogs because they played 100% better. They kicked about 22 behinds, and if they kicked, five of them goals, they would have been on a score of 95. And it would have been another 50-point win. So, well done, Bulldogs, for beating a strong Giants side. Moving on to Brisbane-Richmond, what did you think? Honestly, what is wrong with Richmond? They're a VFL side. I don't know half the players that are playing now. And Adam Yusei, horrible first year. Then Freo beat the Saints. Pretty obvious that one. Saints showed up in the first half. It was just Freo that dominated the second half. And so the Sunday games, I tipped Essendon to beat North Melbourne, a little obvious one. North Melbourne showed up in the first half, but then Essendon just ran away with it. Port Adelaide Hawthorn. What can I say? 30 seconds left. Willioli kicks a goal. 2 seconds left. Done. I don't even know who it was. Kicks the goal. I remember looking at this game. I was on my way to West Coast, Melbourne. It was 60. It was 68 to 79. And I was thinking, wow, Hawthorn have won once again. But then, because there was only a couple of minutes on the clock. And then I just came back. As soon as I got to the game, I checked the scores. And Port Adelaide won. Well done, Port Adelaide. Then West Coast Eagles versus Melbourne. I love you. I love you so much, West Coast. Thank you for bringing that win. I don't care if I got a tip wrong. It's West Coast. Anyways, let's get on to the tips with this round. First game, we have the Bulldogs taking on the Swans. And starting off with my tip, I reckon the Swans will get this one done by 9 points. Now, the Swans coming off a great win, 52-point win to the Carlton Blues. And then the Bulldogs coming off a great win to the GWS Giants. Now, both sides haven't played the worst. The Bulldogs haven't played the worst this season, but they haven't played the best footy. And then the Swans have just been really dominant all season. And even the Dogs did beat the Sydney arch rivals, the GWS Giants. And that's what's giving me hope for the Bulldogs. If they can do that, they're 100% going to be a top 8 side. But Sydney are first on the ladder. They haven't lost a game since round 3. They're on a 7-game winning streak, I believe. And Sydney are playing really good footy. So that's why I'm going to tip them by 9. Bulldogs put up a good fight, but Sydney just get it done. Moving on to Freo Collingwood, I'm going to go Collingwood by at least, 10 points. I reckon it'll be a good game. Collingwood will make it close, Freo will make it close, but Collingwood will just get the chocolates. Now, Freo, they beat St Kilda, a bit of inaccuracy in the first half, but they strolled their way to a win against the Saints. Now, the Saints are a smoky for bottom 4. They have the same amount of wins as Hawthorn and West Coast. They've got the same amount of wins. You just see my tips. I've got the same amount of wins as West Coast as well, which is pretty shocking. But, yes, I reckon that the Collingwood Magpies will just get it done in a close one by 10 points. And Freo put up a good fight, but Collingwood win. Moving on to the next game. Carlton beat Gold Coast at Marvel Stadium by a comfortable, or not comfortable really, actually. It's going to be a thrilling contest. A 4-point win to the Baggers. The reason why I'm doing this is because Gold Coast are looking like a top 8 side. Carlton, their last couple of games haven't been the best. They did beat Melbourne, which I liked pretty well. They dominated the whole game until the last quarter, and they slipped away and almost choked. And then after that, they lost to Sydney. But it's Sydney, but you surely got to get them within 5 goals to Sydney. West Coast did it. Surely Carlton can do it, but nope. But I still reckon Carlton will bounce back and get a win to Gold Coast. Gold Coast will put up a good fight, but Carlton win in a high-scoring game at Marvel. Moving on to a quite obvious game. Quite obvious who I'm going to tip here. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide. It is in Tasmania, but Port Adelaide, a 41-point comeback to the Hawthorn Hawks. And then North Melbourne, they put up a good fight in the first half, but then they just slipped away and let the Essendon Bombers take control in the second half. Now, I reckon North won't get thumped, but I reckon it'll be at least 40 points. Essendon aren't a smashing side, and they still won by 40 points. So if Port are pretty good at smashing, they beat the Eagles by 50, they can at least beat North by 40 points. And I'm going to go Port Adelaide by 47 in not worst possible smashing, but not really the best for the Kangas. I'll tip Port Adelaide. I almost changed my tip to North. Moving on to Geelong Giants, I'm going to tip Geelong to get this one done at GMHBA Stadium. I reckon Geelong will bounce back after a 64-point loss to the Gold Coast. And then before that, they lost as well. They've lost their last 3. Lost to Melbourne, to Port Adelaide, and to Gold Coast. Now, I reckon GWS, even though they would need to bounce back after that game against the Bulldogs, they will bounce back, but they won't lose by a smashing margin. But I just reckon the Geelong Cats will be too strong at GMHBA. Geelong play really well at GMHBA, hence why I've tipped them in this case. And Jeremy Cameron, I don't know if he's back, but if he is, it's pretty good in for the Giants, and they could get the job done at GMHBA. Geelong by 17. Giants put up a good fight. Moving on to the Dreamtime at the G game. Let's get hyped for it, but don't really get hyped because it should be a smashing. But hopefully it's a good contest. Hopefully Richmond play well. But I just don't think they will, hence why I've tipped Essendon. Essendon have won their past. Well, they've won 4 out of the last 5. The one they lost being a draw. Essendon have been a great side, sitting in second for this 2024 AFL season. They've been beautiful against sides. They beat the Kangas, edged over the Eagles, drew to one of the best sides in the league, Collingwood, and that's pretty good. Now, so I reckon Richmond, they're a VFL side. Look, I can see why they're getting smashed every game. Studi can't really see why, because he always says it's match fixing. Studi can't see the real option, but I can. No offence, Studi, but if you're watching this. But Essendon, I reckon they will comfortably win this one by a margin of 57 at the MCG on Dreamtime at the G. High scoring game. I reckon Essendon will win. Oh, moving on to Hawthorn, Brisbane. Actually, I'm changing my tip there. I'm going to tip Hawthorn. Look, Hawthorn always upset the Lions whenever they play them. You see, the Hawthorn Hawks, they choked, and they choked very horribly. They were up by, 41 against Port Adelaide. I thought, Hawthorn could be a top 8 smoky as I predicted them. But no, it doesn't seem that way anymore after they've just dropped 4 points by 1 point in the last 30 seconds, conceding 2 goals. Horrible by Hawthorn, but even though the Brisbane Lions side is coming off a really thumping win to the Richmond Tigers, I reckon they will lose to Hawthorn and be really shocking against the Hawks. Newcomb, Bruce maybe if he's not injured, and a couple of other key players will have a good game. Ginnivan, that's the guy I was trying to name. I forgot about him. Anyways, and Mabiachal. Anyways, moving on to the next game, Melbourne Saints, the Melbourne Demons. Even though they've came off a loss to my beautiful Eagles, they will only just beat the Saints. Not only just, but they will beat the Saints. Because the Saints came off a loss to Freo. And Saints aren't looking that bad, but enough for Melbourne to win by 5 goals plus. You see, Freo beat St Kilda by 17, while the Wally Up beat Euroke by 17. And St Kilda didn't play bad. They kept it in within 3 goals. But you've got to win. You need to win to give your team confidence. Now, and then Melbourne. That third quarter, I was getting pretty scared. They scored, if it weren't for those behinds, they would have won. They scored, 3 goals, 7, I think it was in the third quarter. If it weren't for those behinds, the Eagles would have really won, and I'm glad they missed them. But well done to Melbourne for for trying to get into it after a pretty downed deficit. And they did really well. The D's, they didn't do really well, but good on the D's for trying and good on the D's for losing. I love your club so much for losing to us, and now you give us a win. Thank you very much. Hence why I'm tipping the D's. All of what I've just said. Final game of the round, Adelaide will beat West Coast. But West Coast, you see, they just came off a win to one of the best sides in the league, the D's. Adelaide choked, or they didn't choke, it was a close game throughout. They just lost to Collingwood. So Adelaide aren't bad. Adelaide, it's going to be a big out for Rankin, unless he just somehow gets back in. I reckon Rankin should be out. And it's going to stop the Crows by demolishing us. But I never thought they would anyway. The Eagles coming off a positive win against the Narm Demons. Beautiful win at home, but again, it is at home. Eagles play like prime Geelong at home. And they're just a really confident side at home, the Eagles. They've beat Richmond, they've beat Freo, they've beat Melbourne. Who can they beat more? I'm even probably going to tip us against the Saints in a couple of weeks. But Adelaide will just be too good for us. And Adelaide, with all their key players, will get the job done by 9 points in the thriller. Thank you guys all for watching this video. We'll see you on the next one. Peace out. Have a good one. Hope you enjoyed my tips.